Sun's glowing, the city's alive. Clock strikes 12, we're ready to dive down the street where the neon hums. Our little escape, the workday succumbs. Tables wait, the bar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie, chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for a day. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. The sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Salute, welcome, and happy Monday. Starting out another week. I don't know about you, but Mondays can be rough to get going. I'm just, wow. Anyway, let's start out by saying hi to all of you all, starting with Big Al of Big Al Presents, who says, happy Monday, Liquid Lunchers. Enjoy the show. Have a great stream, Troy. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hanging out with you this Saturday night for another Stephen King film. This one is his werewolf classic, Silver Bullet. I haven't yet got a promo put together for that because Monday, but I will before the member stream tonight. Absolutely. What will Troy be musing about today? Like, share, subscribe, and become a member. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a stuffiness. It's that seasonal cold. Not allergies. I don't have allergies. It is a cold because it's that time of year. Cold and flu season. I will tell you what I am musing about. And Monday musing is I've got an idea in my head, a thought, and I want to bounce it off all of you because it's not a fully formed thought. That's what musing is, right? ussarn, welcome. Good to see you. Netters Network, calling me the love of her life because she is absolutely the love of mine. Yes, Mark. Hopefully your duties at the dilithium mines allow you to join us today. So glad you're here. Connie Cleary, the bird woman of YouTube, Fluff Chick Productions. Thank you so much for being here. Last call membership drive. This is true. For as little as $2 a month. $2 a month comes out to what? 50 cents a week? For 50 cents a week. And every week I do, on every Monday is a special members only live stream where we stream a movie of your choice and watch it together and comment on it and have a really great time. Among many other benefits of membership, at least I like to think. I'd like to believe that foremost among them is supporting a channel that you love. I hope you're here because you love this channel. And for me to continue to do what I do, I need to know that there's an income that I can count on from it. Netter says, gifted memberships are also welcome. Help Last Call reach 100 members and 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I am really trying to make that goal, but only with your help can that possibly happen. I'm not liking how my camera is lined up. First drag, there. I want the logo in there, and you don't necessarily need to see my CD collection. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I want you to see the cool Halloweeny type stuff behind me too. Let's see. You guys talking to each other, which is always cool. Curtis Selby, lunchtime. Welcome, Curtis. Tired midnight vlogger. Nothing to see here, citizen. Glad you're here, my friend. So here's what I was thinking about today. Actually, it started last night. I've kind of been ruminating about it, pondering this over. So I have been talking for a while now about the cultural vandalism of our favorite franchises. Basically, I've checked out of everything. Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, all of it. All of it. Because everything that we've gotten in the past 5 to 10 years has been just absolute crap. It breaks the canon. It's written by people that have no concern for what they're working on. They are more concerned about getting out cultural, progressive, corruptive messages. And I had often said that, yes, it's about the messaging. It's about all of that because there's too much focus there. But if they would back off of that a little bit, they could get their message in there and still tell good stories. And specifically, I was talking about Star Wars, right? Jake Skywalker and such. This whole get rid of the old, bring in the new, cultural Marxist idea, right? I said it might not just be the political side of things, right? It could also be a greed thing. My speculation had been if you, and I use the example of Superman, right? When DC Comics, I think it was National Comics at the time that eventually became DC Comics, started butting heads with the creators of Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. they were finding that they had to pay certain royalties to them and to their estates for everything that they did using the Superman character, using things they created, story elements they created. And one of the big head-butting points, the sticking points, was the characterization of Superboy, this character that isn't really a separate character from Superman. It's literally Superman as a boy, right? The Smallville, stories of young Clark living on the farm with his parents, Lana Lang, Pete Ross, all of that kind of stuff, right? So that's when they decided to change things. They decided to change so that Clark was never Superboy. He never wore a costume as Superboy. His adventures were either he had no powers, he hadn't gotten his powers until he was old enough to be college age, moving out, going to Metropolis, or he just kept it all secret. And you see a lot of these story elements come up in Smallville. But even before Smallville, it was happening in the comics when, after Crisis, Superman was rewritten so that, like I just said, he didn't start manifesting his powers until he was getting ready to leave and move to Metropolis. So he had no career as a Superboy, but they reintroduced a Superboy into the comics. I believe this was during the John Byrne era, so I guess he would be credited with the creation of this character. A clone of Clark with the infusion of some DNA from Lex Luthor. Whether there's messaging in there or not, I'll leave that up to you. It just is what it is, and that's who the new Superboy was. During the Death of Superman storyline, he was one of the Supermen that was introduced, and he was a punk kid with like shaved side of his head and a leather jacket, and he was just kind of a jerk. And then, of course, he went on to have his own comic. The character is developed. He was part of Young Justice. And a lot of you might only know him from the cartoon series. But that's where it all came from. And at the time, I think it was an open secret. The reason they were doing this was because they wanted to be able to continue to do stuff with Superboy as a character without paying royalties to Siegel and Schuster. This was a new creation. Now, of course, that means they owe something to John Byrne, but, maybe that's mitigated or whatever. So my speculation with Star Wars was they're killing off Han and Leia and Luke and, just destroying their characters and undermining them because they wanted you to focus on their new characters so that there isn't any, added, they've already paid George Lucas for the Star Wars trademark, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't still owe some money to Lucas every time they use his characters, every time they use story elements that he created and so forth. So if they could shift away from all that, no more talk about a Death Star. Now we're going to talk about Starkiller Base, and no longer do we talk about Luke Skywalker. It's going to be all Kylo Ren, and it's going to be all Rey, and it's going to be all this other stuff. Don't have to give any money to George Lucas. Now, again, I'm not saying that was the case. I said this is the theory I've been operating under, right? And that's what got me thinking about that was then share screen. Again, this comes to us from our friends over at That Park Place. This one written by WDW Pro. Tron Ares is a bigger flop for Disney than some of the most famous box office failures of all time. Now, I didn't see this movie. I have no intention to see it. They will not get my money. I refuse to go see anything that is so hateful to the fans that they're going to destroy the canon. They're not going to give us what we want, and they're just going to girl boss us to death. I won't do it. I just won't do it. So all I can go on is what the critics have said. Everyone over on Critic Lists, everyone who posts here on YouTube in our sphere that reviews movies, and even the professional critics. Pretty much everybody, with a very few exceptions, are pretty much panning this film. And here's what has my gears kind of grinding a little bit in my head. Tron is a Disney property. This is not like Lucasfilm, where it was acquired from George Lucas. This isn't like Marvel, that was acquired in an acquisition with characters created by other people. These were all properties of Disney. There is no reason to change the canon, destroy the canon, undermine the previous characters. There really is no need to do that. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's get into the article a little bit and see what has happened at the box office with this, and then I'll take you through why I'm having the thoughts that I am. Disney has worn its share of very expensive bruises at the box office. Prior to the post-pandemic trend of losing money on major blockbusters, Disney would often react strongly to a public failure. John Carter, which, by the way, I thought was a good movie. I liked John Carter when I finally got around to seeing it, but then again, I am part of the problem, right? I didn't see it until it was out of theaters and just long forgotten. And The Lone Ranger are the two canonical examples that triggered boredom autopsies and strategy pivots. However, on the numbers, velocity of collapse and return on spend, Tron Ares is even a bigger failure than either of those two mega flops ever dreamed to be. In fact, Tron Ares might even make Rachel Zegler's Snow White look like a cinematic money-making queen pin. Yay! I can claim a victory! Sort of. 2 weekends in, Ares sits at roughly 103 million worldwide. That's against a net production budget about 180 million before a 9-figure global marketing push. 9 figures. That's a lot. That tent poles typically require. But the industry's own rule of thumb, films generally need between 2 to 2.5 times production budget in global box office to break even. Ares isn't even in the same zip code. And I do want to say something about those numbers. That's an industry average. Disney tends to be 2 to 2.5 times their budget just to make the film, not counting marketing. So if it's a Disney film, they almost need to make 5 times what their budget is in order to break even. Generally speaking, not specifically saying that about Ares, just saying in general. Contrast that with Disney's prior fiasco. John Carter ultimately reached 284.1 million worldwide and still forced Disney to book a historic $200 million loss and endure a public and international reckoning. The Lone Ranger finished at 260.5 million worldwide and caused a $190 million studio write-down. In other words, both infamous bombs grossed more than double what Tron Ares has mustered so far, and they still triggered write-downs and leadership fallout. If Carter and Ranger were unacceptable at 284 and 260 million each, Ares at 130 million on a comparable modern tentpole cost has already underperformed them on raw revenue, not just profitability. And let me just say this for those who might not be paying attention. We're not just adjusting for inflation here. If we did so, John Carter and Lone Ranger might be above the 400 million mark. Think about that for a second. Wow. The opening to legs profit profile makes the picture worse. Ares launched at 33.5 million domestic and immediately cratered within weekend 2. That deceleration places it among the year's softer tentpoles, and suggests poor word of mouth plus minimal international ballast, especially glaring given that Legacy managed 400 million worldwide on a $170 million budget 15 years ago. Okay. Why this is more company shaping than Carter and Ranger, first, Ares' revenue to cost ratio is demonstrably worse, using the conservative 2 to 2.5 times break-even multiplier for tentpoles. Ares would need roughly 550 to 600 million worldwide just to wash its negative cost before interest and overhead. I went into detail about interest on movies like this last night on Geeky Geezers. With the film hovering near 103 million and already collapsing domestically, Disney faces a likely loss trajectory that proportionately eclipses those earlier debacles. Second, prior bombs happened in an era when Disney's slate had stronger offsets. Animated hits, Marvel and hypergrowth, and so forth. In 2025, thinner hit environment, a 9-figure miss dents film's P&L and undermines synergy plans that depend on cultural momentum. Historically, John Carter's failure precipitated high-level fallout and strategy questions. Ares is poised to force similarly uncomfortable postmortems, only with less box office cushion than those earlier change the company moments. Let's get real here. Tron Ares is performing so badly that it may be the end of the Tron franchise for good. Finally, the optics are brutal. Disney's expensive sci-fi sequel getting routed in weekend 2, while a $30 million horror film claims number 1 with a $26.5 million domestic debut and $42 million global weekend underscores how unforgiving the market is for over-budget IP without must-see urgency. That split-screen weekend narrative, horror thriving while Ares plunges, crystallizes the risk-return imbalance Disney's been wrestling with. If the Lone Ranger and John Carter were cautionary tales that shifted Disney's course, Tron Ares is a louder siren. Fewer 150 million to 200 million gambles without airtight 4-quadrant appeal. Are face losses larger than the flop that once rewired the company? So here's what I'm thinking about. And you know, again, before anyone tries to find a way to spin it, to say, hey, maybe, marketing, because that's where the real money's made, right? The whole Spaceballs thing, right? Well, I can tell you that Hasbro right now has a HasLab up for 5 action figures with characters from the original, not even from Tron Ares, from the original Tron, 5 action figures, 2 light cycles, and a stupid little grid, display base. That's way overpriced, and it's not going to fund. It's not going to fund. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. A lot of toy analysts are saying, well, it's a very niche thing that only certain people want. That's not great for crowdfunding. Probably not worth the investment, whatever. I think it's more than that. I think that fans of the original Tron already got the old action figures, the old cycles, which were actually pretty cool. They had those ratchets in them. You'd pull the ripcord and they'd zoom take off, which is way better than what they're offering in this collection here, because the light cycles are just these clamshells that go over the action figure. And although the back wheel turns, the front one is static. You can't even move it along with your hand, let alone have like a play feature, like a flywheel drive or something like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And there's, don't even get me started on the whole HasLab thing and the fact that Hasbro is so freaking overpriced, and I'm going to go down a whole different rabbit hole there. But the Tron Ares thing cannot help. That's why they put it out when they did, right? To coincide with the release of Ares, and then great, Ares is a flop. Well, we're not going to be funding this. And from their point of view, from Hasbro's point of view, well, okay, we dodge a bullet there. We didn't actually put any money into it. We put forward this HasLab. It doesn't fund. Screw it. We didn't lose any money. We'll go on to something else. Anyway, my thought here is this isn't Disney purposely undermining, because from what I've heard, there's nothing in this movie that undermines Kevin Flynn, the Big Lebowski, right? Nothing undermines him. It doesn't character assassinate Tron, albeit Tron has nothing to do with this movie. It's literally a Tron in name only. Tron, insert the Ian Malcolm meme here. Hello? Are you going to have any dinosaurs in your dinosaur theme park at any point? Are you going to have any Tron in your Tron movie at any point? Just wondering, I mean, yes, it seems to culturally vandalize or character assassinate Sam Flynn by replacing him with the girl boss that nobody cares about. The girl boss that nobody cares about is becoming a trope. That is Ray Palpatine. That is, insert girl boss here. Captain Marvel. Girl boss nobody cares about. But there's a lot of indication that character was supposed to have been Sam Flynn. Why they went a different way, I don't know. And here's what it comes down to. It's not just the messaging, I don't think. It's not just destroying the old characters to insert the new characters. I think it's more than that. Because they don't gain anything by undermining their own franchise that was created by Disney. Lock, stock, and barrel 100%. I think it's just a lack of ability to tell stories now. They don't take the time to understand the story, to go back and look at what came before, make sure everything matches up. Look, archaeologists do this all the time. Well, museums do this all the time, right? If there is damage to the Shroud of Turin, they've done this. There was a fire which scorched the edges of the Shroud of Turin. So what did they do? They went in with linen. It wasn't an exact match, but they got as close as they could to the linen of the shroud, and they wove it in using a technique that if you get close enough, you can see where it was mended. But from a distance, it looks like all the weaves of fabric all mesh together. That's what you got to do when you do a sequel, especially a sequel by a different writer, different actors, different characters, whatever. And they don't know how to do that. They don't have the skill. They have all the skill of a preteen writing fan fiction. That's what I think the real problem is. I've got a very abbreviated promo section. It's less than 2 minutes because I haven't had a chance to update for the... So this is what's coming up in the next couple days. Let's get to that real quick. And then I want to come back and see what you guys have to say. See if you think I'm completely upats or if there's something to what I'm saying. Be right back.
You are watching Liquid Lunch, streaming every weekday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's sip together. This week on Live from Sparkwood and 21, we'll be watching part 2 of the series created by Mark Frost and David Lynch called On the Air. This sitcom follows the staff of a fictional 1950s television network as they produce a live variety show called The Lester Guy Show, often with disastrous results. Join us this Tuesday at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Deleted Scenes and Affiliates.
Egrorian, famed genius and scientist, has created the lethal tachyon funnel, a weapon powerful enough to blast the Federation out of the galaxy, and he's willing to do a deal with Avon and the crew. It would be a simple exchange, the ultimate weapon for the ultimate computer, Aurak. Join us for Netta's favourite Blake 7 episode, Orbit, this Tuesday at 10 Central, 11 Eastern.
Every Sunday evening, Aged Boomer and Last Call with Troy Pacelli bring you the rundown of the week's geek news, or at least what they think is interesting. You may have heard about it elsewhere, but Boomer and Pacelli spin it like only two old geezers can. It's Geeky Geezers, every Sunday evening at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
We now return to our liquid lunch.
ussarn G says, Friday I went to see Tron Ares. It was good. Interesting story. The visual effects were good. Some of them were nearly too strobing for me, but I have a bit of an issue. I think it would be fine for people who have no issues. The 10-year-old two rows behind me seem totally engaged. Okay. So let's take this in reverse order. The 10-year-old is exactly who they need to be targeting, right? Because if you want your franchise to continue, you need the kids to love it, right? Because if you're making everything for the old-timers, they're going to be gone in a generation. And then you've got nothing. You're left with an empty sack. You need to bridge the gap between the old audience and the new audience. Case in point... Ghostbusters Afterlife. That was a perfect example of how to do it right. But here's the problem. If you engage the 10-year-old and the father, who was a big fan of Tron back in the 80s, is pissed off, well, that kid's never going to be coming back to see any more of the movies. And clearly... based on the numbers that we're seeing, there aren't enough 10-year-olds being taken because the adults are staying away. Because Disney, because Girl Boss, because bad word of mouth, right? And then backing up, interesting story. The visual effects were good. That's all I'm hearing. The visual effects were amazing. Oh, it was beautiful. It's like the baby that laughs at the jangling keys. Oh, hee, 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 ooh, ooh, ooh. The story was good. It needed to be great. The story might be good as a standalone story, but there were 2 movies that came before this. So it has to be chapter 3 in a 3-chapter book. If you have 2 outstanding chapters and then one that's good, doesn't have much to do with the original or directly undermines what came before it, it becomes a real problem. It takes a good story to bad because of its relationship to what came before it. That relationship is very, very important, or you don't have a franchise. You'd have been better off not making Tron. You'd have been better off making brand new standalone movie and not calling it Tron. You should have just called it Ares. And going back to that 10-year-old kid, he's not getting any toys for this movie. Like I said, the only option for toys was this HasLab, which was toys for the original Tron, and it's never even going to get made because it's never going to fund. They're funding it at a level that a 10-year-old kid can't afford, and parents aren't going to spend $300 on 5 action figures that the kid can play with and break. This is why these franchises will die. Not only are they losing the old audience immediately, they will eventually lose that old audience anyway due to attrition, and they are not bringing in a new audience. The new audience may or may not see the movie, will not have toys to play with because they can't afford them, and they're left holding an empty sack. I shall not swell my eyes with this cinematic abomination. I understand. No. It wasn't 9 digits to make the movie. It was 9 digits to market it worldwide. It's even worse. That is even worse. Yes, they are losing big time on this. Ares haven't seen Legacy, only one Tron movie. Joe, I would recommend you see Legacy. It really was good. I would compare it to Ghostbusters Afterlife. It wasn't perfect. In fact, I would check out Retro Blasting's most recent video, which actually is a retrospective of Legacy. He would have tweaked one minor scene in the movie to make it perfect. But it was good. It was good. And it would have been a great starting off point for a new generation on it. But they've blown it. It's not going to happen now. Afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, Leia Plus Size. Maybe Tron is a movie that does not need to be a franchise. Having said that, again, Disney virus is what killed it. That's true. I agree that not every film needs to be a franchise. But if there are going to be franchises, it needs to be something with a world like Tron, like Star Wars, where after you've seen a standalone movie, you go, I'd like to know more about this world. Where could this story go? And if there are still stories to tell in that world, go for it. Especially if there's a merchandising option. There should be toys all over of Tron. There are not. That's the other thing. They keep missing marketing opportunities that could offset any single movie not doing well or whatever. So what's the point of having a franchise if you're not building that franchise and marketing that franchise? It makes zero sense. The decision making at Disney and other studios is a symptom of leftist activists running the creative process. They mistakenly believe that the way they think is the majority. This is not the case. So that's a good point, too. The way you write good stories is you write characters that are timeless and generalizable to everybody. There should be something in every single character in the movie that the audience can relate to. This whole idea of seeing myself on screen, no. I am not going to ever see myself in the girl boss. I am not ever going to see myself in, the way they mean it, I'm never going to see myself in The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone is probably the one I am closest to, Italian-American heritage, Back in my younger days, I was, buff and I had great hair and, all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, the me now, you don't want to see on screen. I look more like Danny DeVito now. I don't want to see me on screen. I want to see Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Rock, Kurt Russell, those kinds of guys, right? It's not the color of their skin, their gender, their any of that I want, that I have to relate to. I have to relate to the humanity of those characters, their motivations, their foibles, their mistakes, I should even be able to relate a little bit to the villain. There, but for the grace of God, go I. That's good storytelling. That's why stories from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s still are classics and resonate today. Because even though I didn't live through those eras, I can still relate to those characters. Even though I don't look anything like them. As long as they keep making decisions from this bubble. Yeah, okay, so yeah, going back to that point, I got off topic there. They think everyone is a blue-haired, septum-pierced, lefty neo-Marxist that believes all their ridiculous, unrealistic theories. And let me be clear, a lot of these Marxist ideas, these radical race theory, radical gender theory, radical every freaking thing theory, they are radical theories for a reason. They do not match up with reality, right? A scientific theory describes reality. It may be wrong, but it is right in that it makes predictions. Okay. So before we understood cosmology and we understood how gravity works, Einstein's theory of relativity, even before Newton and his concept of the globe, okay? We had the observable world. We saw the sun come up in the morning. We saw the sun set. And if it was overcast and we couldn't see the sun, it still got a little bit bright, so we knew the sun was probably back there behind those clouds. And it happened every morning. So maybe you didn't know that the sun was a big ball of fire in the middle of our solar system and the Earth was a smaller rock that went around it, spinning as it went. But what you did know was the sun came up every morning and the sun set every night. And it was in the sky longer during the summer in the northern hemisphere than it was in the winter. So you could map out and predict over years when the sun would rise, what time, when the sun would set, what time, and how long it would be there every year, and you could calculate that out forever. Now, your theory about why the sun rose and set and all that might be wrong, but your predictions were right. Now you get to the radical theories of race and gender and all that kind of stuff, and they have all these ideas and philosophies about society and culture and psychology. They don't predict anything. They don't match up with the world as a whole. It only makes sense in Portland and in California and in their bubble with the people they know that believe these fallacies. That's the only people it works for. Everyone else in the world is looking at them going, you're morons. I've been looking back for older films. I'm done with the new stuff. I am too. Yeah, And I see people like Deleted Scenes, who's on the fence on that. He's like, I hate Hollywood, but I put myself in a situation where I'm going to keep seeing these films for review purposes, but I'm going to spend a lot more time with the classic stuff. A little boy was playing with his train in the den when his mom heard, "All right, you SOBs, get on the damn train now, because we're heading down to the effing track." His mom, hearing this, went and told him, "We don't use that language. Go to your room until you can behave." 2 hours later, his mom hears, "Ladies and gentlemen, please board the train as we are departing." She smiles, and then, "If you're upset about the departure delay, blame the bitch in the kitchen." Oh, man. Oh, man. Curtis says they have no imagination. They care only about numbers and ideology. Story to them is stupid. And that's the problem. When you think the story is stupid, you also think your audience is stupid. The reason for telling stories is to communicate with your audience. And a message well received is a message given with good intent. And throughout history, the most classic stories have inspired, have uplifted, have taught valuable lessons in a positive way. So they were well received. And why are you passing that message on? Because you care about the people around you and you want to uplift them, making this world a better place. These people say they want to make the world a better place, but they're a bunch of Karens that just want to reshape the world in their image. And if you don't like it, you're horrible, evil people. We are here to preach at you and demand that you like what we do. And that's where the disconnect comes in. Is Sam Flynn the person in the Lastron that got in the computer? Yeah, he is the son of Kevin Flynn from the first movie. So he is the... I don't want to compare him to Luke Skywalker in relationship to Anakin Skywalker, because Kevin Flynn doesn't turn to the dark side. But there is a similar sort of arc to that. Whereas the first story is about Kevin Flynn saving his intellectual property from an evil corporation, going into the machine, getting his stuff back, coming back, and taking over the company because of what was taken from him. A similar story with his son. His son goes into the machine really looking for his dad, but it was also because he went and he did the opposite. Think of his computer companies like Microsoft, and Microsoft Jr. comes along and says, "What you're doing is evil." Not his father, but the corporation that took over his father's company. "What you're doing is evil." You know, it really is a hit on it is a commentary on Microsoft, because it says you've created an operating system that is good. You are not actually creating beneficial upgrades. You're just charging people more for an upgrade they don't need. So he took the base code and released it on the internet for free to everybody, so that nobody ever had to buy that operating system ever again. It just undermined the whole company. But then there's stuff going on in the grid and stuff that, there's that whole story too. What's very interesting about it is there's this concept of these new programs that weren't written by anyone. They spontaneously seem to come into existence, and it's not clear if they come from like another dimension or if they are an artifact of computers themselves, but they're actually sentient life forms within the program. They're called ISOs. one of the programs goes all mustache man on them and tries to eliminate them all. It's a really good allegory for, you know, the nastiness of the 1930s and the cultural, you know, cleansing that they tried to do. Nothing wrong with retelling that story in a different way, and they did it pretty well. So yeah, it was a really good movie. I really liked the movie. Don't forget 2 other factors. We spent 50 plus years destroying the family, so yeah, parents not taking their kids to movies because the family's broken. That's true. And they need that family cohesion in order to keep the momentum going on, whether they like it or not. If you're talking about Tron Legacy, yeah, exactly. 16 out of at least 20 years were dominated by policies bent on bankrupting us. We don't have the money to take kids to the movies anymore. Yeah, let alone spend $300 on 5 action figures. Hollywood is, in their foolishness, has been supporting the very people who were intent on destroying things like Hollywood. Yeah. I like Legacy. There are still some talents there was still talent in Disney back then. Sam Flynn is in the movie. Ares goes to see him in the old computer. Yeah. No. It's not Sam Flynn he goes to see. It's the father, Kevin Flynn. Sam is not in it. Cora is not in it. None of the characters from Tron Legacy are in it. They aren't. There is no connective tissue. The second movie is only important to them because of the MacGuffin of trying to find out how ISOs are able to live outside of the grid. And that's another area where I think you're saying that the story was good. If you start asking questions about the plot, it falls apart. Why? What is this movie's whole explanation for why a program can exist outside of the grid? The reality is they can't. The only one that could was Cora, and Cora was very unique. She was an ISO. She was a living organism separate from the human-made programs. She was special. So a program like Ares should not be able to exist outside the grid. And you sure as hell should not be able to create one of those giant ships, because where does the matter come from? Remember, the in and out was the equivalent of a transporter, breaking down the matter and rearranging it as energy inside the computer. How do you create matter from nothing? Yeah, you should see the first movie again. The whole technology was it had an orange, and it would digitize it and put it in the computer, and then it could recreate that orange. And so the computer turns on Kevin Flynn and brings him into the thing, and then it restores him at the end of the movie. Same thing happens to Sam Flynn. Why is Cora able to be reconstructed when she didn't come from this world? Because she came from another world. She had substance and mass. But again, that requires development, thinking it through, consistency within your story. That's good storytelling. It's understanding those things. Karl Marx had a great theory of history, but he based off of the theory some very unrealistic conclusions. Yeah, exactly. Good theory, but it doesn't stand up to even basic observation of reality. I enjoy Legacy. The movie score is just great. That's the other thing. I hear the Nine Inch Nails score was great. There's no way it was better than Daft Punk. Sorry, just wasn't. If it's not better than what you went before, you probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place. It is insane what the ancients knew about astronomy and the times of the seasons. The Mayan calendar is more accurate than ours. Yes, Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely right. Well, here's the problem. I'll tell you exactly why that is. The concept of leap years. Do you know why leap years exist? It's not like there's some glitch in the universe. It's a glitch in how we choose to calculate time. We're trying to take reality and make it fit into our belief about how it should be. And we want a 365-day year because that's close to how it works, but it's not perfect. So we end up with these rounding errors that we have to account for every 4 years. We got to add a day every 4 years. Well, you know what? The Mayans didn't do that. They dealt with reality. This is the way the sun goes. This is day number this. This is year number this. We just continue on and on and on and on. And there's never a leap nothing. Fallout is the only new thing I'm looking forward to. I agree with you. I'm hoping it turns out good. I really am. They're like the witches in the Chronicles of Narnia, though the thought and imagination are nothing but a weapon to use to dominate and destroy people. Yeah, exactly. Luke Skywalker is my all-time favorite character. I don't look like him. Oh, you don't look like a young white man? Really? Have plus size? And doesn't look like, and he doesn't look like me. In order for me to look like him, it was who he was as a character that I related to. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I don't look anything like Ripley, but I could relate to her as a character. It's probably a good thing I don't look like Ripley. I'd never leave the house. Curtis Selby says, it's 1,000% right. This is why Star Trek is so bad, because these people can only conceive of the now. They try to take the now and wrap it in a futuristic coat and call it Star Trek. Yeah, that's why you have people in wheelchairs in Star Trek, We have come back to a time like that when Edison controlled film. Small media will have to work like bootleggers to defy the authority of the big corporation. It happens all the time. These things happen in cycles. Main reason Hollywood is in California, other than the climate, the early filmmakers wanted and needed to be as far away from Edison on the East Coast as they could get. Yes, that's absolutely true. But then again, that's also why now movie making is decentralizing, moving out of California and moving out throughout the world. Okay, I want to real quick say hi to some last minute joiners before I wrap up. I want to say hi to longest running superhero RPG on Earth. Good to see you, CK. Always good to have you. And, that was the only new one being added. So that is it. We are going to wrap it up now. I have actually gone overtime. I didn't mean to do that to you guys. I'm very sorry. But, once my head gets going, it gets going. Members, please join me tonight. You guys decided we will be watching, again, Halloween from 1978. I don't mind. It's a good movie. I'll watch it with you guys. So looking forward to seeing. I'll get the stream put together and get the link up for you on the community tab shortly. And you guys know what's coming up in the next couple days. We'll get to all the rest of that later. I got a lot of work to get done because Mondays and Wednesdays are Mondays and Thursdays are my big days to really bust things out. So I gotta get working. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and sharing your liquid lunch with me today. You guys take care. Stay awesome. Hit that like button on the way out. Tell your friends about the stream because together we grow. All right. Salud. Take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
Here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high noon.